There's a certain kind of person who walks into a party and feels something no one else in the room seems to feel. Not shyness, not nerves, something heavier, a quiet, sinking sense that none of this is real. Everyone around them is laughing, clinking glasses, singing the song, and they're standing there with a pizza cup in their hand, smiling on the outside while a voice inside asks, "What am I even doing here?" Most people call that being antisocial, a killjoy, ungrateful even. But psychology tells a very different story. Because if you're an INTJ or an INFJ, that feeling isn't a flaw in you. It's the sound of a mind that sees straight through performance and can't pretend it doesn't. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why forced celebrations trigger something close to dread in these two rare types, and why that reaction is actually a sign of how deeply they're built to feel. INTJs and INFJs are two of the rarest personality types on Earth. Together, they make up only a few % of the population. And they share something unusual. Both lead with what psychologists call intuition, a way of processing the world that runs beneath the surface of things. They don't just attend an event. They read it, they feel the tension under the small talk, notice the forced laughter, sense who actually wants to be there and who's performing. Where others see a fun night out, they see a stage full of scripts. You've probably watched one of them do it without realizing. They're the person who arrives a little late and leaves a little early. The one nursing a single drink by the wall, watching more than talking. The one who lights up for exactly one real conversation, then goes quiet again the moment the music gets louder. That isn't awkwardness. It's a mind operating on a completely different frequency than the room. Carl Jung, the psychologist who first mapped these introverted intuitive minds, described them as people oriented toward inner meaning rather than outer activity. They're wired to ask why. And a forced celebration is one of the few situations in life that offers almost no why at all. So, we're going to walk through 7 reasons these types feel existential dread when joy becomes mandatory. And by the end, you'll see this reaction for what it truly is. Let's start with the one almost nobody expects. For these types, the dread doesn't come from the people. It comes from the pretending. Intuitive introverts are natural authenticity detectors. Research on the highly sensitive person pioneered by psychologist Elaine Aron shows that certain minds process emotional and social information far more deeply than average. They can't switch that depth off. So, when a room runs on obligation-forced cheer, hollow toasts, we should all look happy, their whole system flags it as false. And here's the hard part. They're not judging anyone. They desperately want to feel the joy everyone else seems to feel. But something in them refuses to fake an emotion it doesn't actually have. The celebration asks them to perform. And performing, for them, feels a little like lying. That's the surface. But underneath it, something far more fascinating is happening in the mind itself. An INTJ or INFJ mind is a meaning-seeking engine that never fully powers down. Psychologists describe these types as dominated by intuition, a function that constantly asks what things mean, where they lead, what's underneath. In a deep one-on-one conversation, this feels like flow, the state of total absorption described by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. But a loud celebration offers the opposite, fragments, small talk, surface. The mind keeps reaching for depth and keeps hitting a wall. So, while everyone else is relaxing, their brain is quietly exhausting itself, scanning for significance in a setting designed to have none. The party isn't boring to them, it's the opposite. It's overwhelming, because their mind won't stop looking for the point. And there's a neurological layer under this too. Research on introversion suggests these types are more sensitive to stimulation to begin with. The noise, the lights, the crossing conversations all land harder in their nervous system. So they're fighting 2 battles at once. Their senses are flooded and their mind is starving, overstimulated and undernourished in the exact same moment. That's a very specific kind of tired, and it's why they can leave a party feeling like they ran a marathon standing still. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because this isn't really about disliking fun at all. Here's the part most people misunderstand. These types love joy. They just can't produce it on a schedule. For an INTJ or INFJ, real emotion has to be earned by something true. A genuine moment, a real connection, an idea that moves them. Authentic joy rises on its own, but a forced celebration reverses the order. It demands the feeling first and hopes the reason catches up. To a mind built around internal logic and emotional honesty, that's a contradiction it can feel in its body. So they stand at the birthday, the office party, the New Year countdown, waiting to feel what they're supposed to feel. And the harder they try to summon it, the further it slips away. It's not that the joy isn't in them. It's that joy, for them, can't be commanded. It can only be invited. And this next part, it's where the people around them get it completely wrong. To everyone else, the quiet one in the corner looks like a problem. People read their stillness as sulking, their silence as judgment, their early exit as rudeness. But psychologists who study introversion, including Susan Cain, have shown that a calm exterior in these types usually hides intense internal activity. The still face isn't empty. It's full. They're not withdrawing from the group to reject it. They're managing an inner world no one else can see. And because they can sense exactly how they're being perceived, it doubles the weight. Now, they're not only drained by the event, they're managing everyone's disappointment in them for being drained. The very sensitivity that makes them feel too much also makes them feel every bit of the judgment aimed their way. If you're the kind of person who actually thinks about this, who's ever stood in a crowded room feeling completely alone, or watched someone you love go quiet at a party and wondered what was really going on inside them, then you already understand something most people never will. It would mean a lot if you subscribed. We make videos like this every week, real psychology about the way rare, deep-feeling minds actually work, explained in a way that finally makes sense. Now, let's get to the part that goes deeper than most people ever look. Here's what no one sees. To get through these events, these types mask. And masking has a cost. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild called this emotional labor the exhausting work of manufacturing a feeling you don't have to meet what a situation expects. For INTJs and INFJs, an entire celebration can be emotional labor from start to finish. Smiling on cue, performing enthusiasm, hiding the fact that they're running on empty. And unlike small talk that ends in minutes, this can stretch for hours. By the time they get home, they're not just tired, they're hollowed out. It can take a full day of silence to refill what one evening emptied. And the cruelest part is the loneliness underneath it, because they can be surrounded by people who love them, wearing the smile everyone wanted to see, and still feel completely unseen. That's the ache these celebrations leave behind. Not sadness, erasure. But even this isn't the root. To find that, we have to go all the way down. At the very bottom of the dread is something ancient, something existential. The psychiatrist Irvin Yalom described 4 deep truths every human quietly wrestles with: death, freedom, isolation, and meaning. Most people keep these buried under the noise of everyday life. But intuitive introverts live close to them. And a forced celebration, a birthday, a new year, an anniversary is secretly a marker of time. It quietly announces that another year is gone. So while the room shouts and counts down, these minds feel the clock. They feel the passing. The anthropologist Ernest Becker argued that much of human celebration exists to distract us from exactly this awareness. The music, the countdown, the noise, he saw them as beautiful ways of not looking directly at our own mortality. So a party can feel, to an INTJ or INFJ, like a room full of people trying very hard not to notice something they themselves can't stop noticing. That's the dread. It isn't about the event. It's about standing awake in a moment everyone else is using to fall asleep. Which brings us to the last one. And honestly, the most important. Here's the truth that changes everything. This dread isn't weakness. It's the shadow side of a gift. The same mind that can't fake joy is the one that creates the most real joy anyone will ever feel around it. Viktor Frankl taught that human beings don't actually crave comfort, they crave meaning. And these types are meaning specialists. Give an INTJ or INFJ one honest conversation, one small gathering that actually matters, one ritual with real significance, and they don't just tolerate it, they come alive. So, the goal was never to force them to love big, loud parties. The goal is to let them build celebration on their own terms, smaller, deeper, truer. A long walk instead of a crowded room. One person instead of 50. A conversation that actually goes somewhere instead of an hour of noise. When they stop trying to feel what they're told to feel and start honoring what they actually feel, the dread finally lifts. Because it was never a rejection of joy. It was a refusal to fake it. So the next time you see someone go quiet in the middle of a celebration, the one who slipped outside, the one whose smile never quite reached their eyes, you'll know what you're actually looking at. You're not looking at someone who hates joy. You're looking at someone who feels it too deeply to fake it. Someone whose mind can't stop searching for meaning, even in a room built to avoid it. Someone who stands awake while everyone else is trying not to look. They're not broken, they're not cold, they're built for depth in a world that often settles for noise. And once you understand that, you stop asking them to change and start giving them the kind of moment they were always waiting for. If this hits something in you, I made another video on why intuitive introverts feel most alone in the moments they're supposed to feel closest. It's right here when you're ready.